To achieve his goals, our next superhuman wouldn't let anything stand in his way, even if he couldn't stand at all. Here's Deborah Roberts with the man who has arms of steel.
Somewhere in the breathtaking scenery outside Park City, Utah, a mountain climber trains. Using only his arms.
Your arms have got to really
do
all the work here, right?
They totally do. That's pretty much it. It's my motor.
His name is Chris Waddell, but when it comes to mountain climbing, you might call him Superman, since he refuses to be limited by his paralyzed legs.
So I was on a climb one day and this thought just popped into my head. Well, I should climb Mount Kilimanjaro. No idea where it came from. I had no idea if it was possible.
Kilimanjaro, Africa's tallest mountain, has most certainly never been conquered by a paraplegic.
19,000 feet. And nobody said to you, you're crazy?
I think there were some people along the way, but I don't remember the people who said that I was crazy.
How about mom and dad?
My initial thought was, he's crazy. It's way too big. It's not going to be able to be done. Just get a job. And then I can relax.
Forget relaxing. Chris takes on 2 years of hardcore training, testing his stamina. Finally, in September of 2009, he begins an unprecedented assault on Kilimanjaro with a team of 61 Tanzanian porters and 7 Americans, including a film crew and a doctor. And on the first day, he easily climbs an amazing 3,000 feet.
My goal when I was pedaling was to turn myself into an engine. I was looking for the RPMs to be able to roll over things.
Good job, buddy.
Day 2 is another story. The trail becomes rocky. Porters throw down planks to smooth the way, but Chris powers through on his own. On day 3, he skips meal breaks and slowly pulls his way up to 15,000 feet.
Good go. Thank you.
The porters, who spend their lives assisting climbers, can't believe their eyes.
Karibu, Chris. Thank you, Tajiri. Thank you.
Amanda Stoddard, making a film they would call One Revolution, notices the porters giving Chris a Swahili name.
Well, you. Ngumu. Thank you. Thank you.
I translated it as Nguvu Man, Superman.
I don't look at myself that way at all. I think a part of being superhuman, or whatever that means, is having a goal of what you want to do, and having the guts to say, I'm gonna go try to achieve that.
Chris Waddell grew up a typical sports-loving kid in a small town in Massachusetts. Typical until a ski accident leaves him a paraplegic at 20, somehow triggering an epiphany.
I remember lying in the hospital thinking, I'll never be intimidated again because I've recovered from a broken back.
So within a year, he's back on the slopes with a monoski and a new, almost unearthly will to win.
And it's really intoxicating. I felt like a transformed person. I felt like the best form of myself.
This new Super Chris racks up 13 medals over 5 Paralympic Games, the most ever by any single athlete. He even gets a taste of pop icon status, included in People magazine's 50 Most Beautiful People of 1998.
What do you think of that?
People magazine, it's ridiculously flattering. It had more value in that way than all of the medals that I won.
And so, at the top of his game at age 36, he quits, tired of the relative obscurity of the Paralympics.
It's one person with a disability beating another person with a disability. And what does that mean? But the idea of climbing a mountain, people can understand that a whole lot more. That's the metaphor for life in a lot of ways. This idea of we're all climbing our mountain.
Which brings us back to Africa and the film of Chris's anticipated conquest of Kilimanjaro as a means to change perceptions of the disabled.
I felt like we had to tell the story. I felt like that was some of what I was missing as a Paralympic athlete.
Near the end of day 5, that story takes a turn for the worse.
This one's going to be tough.
I don't think I can make it.
The thin air and dizzying altitude of 17,500 feet suck the strength out of him. Chris is exhausted and at risk of a potentially fatal buildup of fluid in his lungs or brain.
And I thought, I don't care at this point. I'm going to go absolutely positively as hard as I can. And it was almost out of body. I just kept clicking this thing over.
But soon his wheels begin slipping.
There's a little bit of gravel on the boards, and I just slip off. And I think, oh, this is just brutal. I've got to get back on the board.
Inches take hours. Then, just 30 feet from camp, these arms of steel turn to rubber.
And I thought, I don't think I can make it. 30 feet, what's 30 feet? And it was this one moment of like, okay, well, how are you going to get there? Well, you only have one choice. You do one crank and then you stop. And then you do another crank and then you stop.
That moment inspires the name for his film, One Revolution.
The idea is that something small, that one turn of the crank can lead to something big, to the turn of to the top of the mountain, but hopefully it can lead to something else big, to this idea of change in how we see ourselves.
If scaling Kilimanjaro inspires Chris Waddell to change the way we see the disabled, on day 6, the mountain forces him to take a new look at himself. With only 400 feet to go, as he pulls himself up with a rope, his path is blocked by a field of massive rocks. For all his superhuman strength and will, this Nguvu man can go no further on his own.
What are we doing? We need to lift him.
Reluctantly, he allows his team to carry him 100 feet.
I became luggage at that point.
Chris feels like a failure. Until his lead advisor privately shares a precious bit of wisdom.
He said, nobody climbs a mountain alone. And I went, oh, so you mean this is the lesson that I'm supposed to learn?
Suddenly, the man who spent years powering through barriers has a brand new vision of his disability.
I didn't want to ask for help because that meant that that might be true, that I'm less of a person. But asking for help is ultimately the human thing.
So you realized that you were successful.
Yes, exactly. And sometimes our success is not what we intend. It's not necessarily what we plan.
A magical awakening atop Mount Kilimanjaro at 19,341 feet. Chris Waddell realizes he is Nguvu Man, superhuman for reaching the summit, but also just human for discovering humility.